Hey guys, it's Sylvia from Backyard Brushes in Fountain City, Wisconsin. And even though our leaves aren't really changing yet, it's the beginning of fall. The start of fall at least. And for fall, for a lot of individuals, that means pumpkins. So today's video is all about pumpkins. I don't make a lot of pumpkins for the shop because I don't want to have to store a pumpkin patch till next year, but I do like putting out a few pumpkins because they do sell decent. So today's video, I'm going to showcase some of my pumpkins, and don't be shy. Take what you learn and mix and match it up. You don't have to copy exactly what I do, but use the inspiration because there's so much you can do when you start to mix up sizes, shapes, colors, and now especially the turquoise pumpkins and the white pumpkins are becoming so popular. So hopefully I will inspire you in creating some of your own pumpkins. I'm not much of a bow person. I'm more of a leather lace kind of girl. So I keep my accessories pretty simple. So hope I can help inspire you in making some pumpkins and get in the mood for this fall. Follow along. So one of the first things I'm going to do before I start on my pumpkins is I'm just going to take some wooden tags with some weathered wood by DIY and a baby wipe. I'm going to wipe down some tags and then just prep them for when I'm done with my pumpkins. I have some tags ready to help accessorize. So using a baby wipe, I'm just wiping down each tag, giving them a weathered wood stain. Once all of my tags are stained and dried, I'm just taking a fine point Sharpie and labeling my tags, pumpkins, 25 cents. For my first pumpkin, I cut a 2x4, 9 inches long, 3 pieces. I then set my miter saw at a 45-degree angle, and I cut 2 of the boards at 45-degree angles on the top and the bottom. Next, I'm going to use DIY Dark and Decrepit, and I'm going to apply it to all the blocks, wiping it off with a baby wipe. Next, I'm taking a palette knife and spreading some petroleum jelly randomly around the wood. When I go to paint the blocks, paint won't adhere to the blocks where the petroleum jelly is. It kind of gives it that nice vintage weathered look. And honestly, you could use your finger or a plastic knife, a paintbrush. It doesn't have to be a palette knife. It's just what I had on hand. Using Firestarter by DIY, I'm going to paint all 3 blocks orange. After all 3 blocks are painted and dried, I'm going to spread more Vaseline randomly over the 3 blocks. While looking at the 3 blocks, you can kind of see where the paint has dried and where the Vaseline is under the Firestarter orange. Using DIY Summer Crush, I'm going to give the 3 blocks another layer of orange paint. While the blocks dry, I'm going to grab a spindle, which I cut at one end at a 15-degree angle so that it sits angled on top of my pumpkin. I'm going to use the Dark and Decrepit Liquid Patina by DIY, and I'm going to stain/paint my spindle. Using a sanding block, I'm going to start to distress my wood blocks. I'll be able to start to see the different layers, the weathered wood, the Firestarter, and the top coat of the Summer Crush. After I'm done distressing, I'm going to grab some crinoline from DIY and give my spindle a second top coat. Using my sanding block, I'm going to distress my spindle. What's great about these 3M sanding blocks is I can actually wash them between use, and they hold up really sturdy. I get a lot of use out of them. Using DIY Big Top, I'm going to give my wood blocks and my spindle a protective coat. Since I'm using DIY, it's a clay-based paint and it does need to be sealed. And since I have the big top out, I'm going to go ahead and give all my wooden tags I made earlier a coat. After my blocks are dry, I'm going to take my Titebond glue and I'm going to glue my blocks together to form a pumpkin. I also glued my stem on, but I didn't get that on camera. Using some lace I have on hand, I am just going to use twine and make a messy bow to tie to the stem of my pumpkin. For my second pumpkin, I'm starting out using a 2x6. I cut 9 inches long and then I clipped the corners at a 45-degree angle. I'm using Fresh Farmhouse by DIY and I'm going to give the wood pumpkin 2 coats of paint. Once the paint is dried, I'm going to use DIY Big Top to seal my pumpkin. I previously had made my own white wax. I used some clear wax and I added acrylic paint to it. I'm giving it a good shake, and I'm going to use a stencil brush, and I'm going to stifle it all over my pumpkin, and then I am going to wipe it down. While that's drying, I'm going to grab my stem, which is a piece of a spindle I cut at a couple inches with, again, a 15-degree angle so that it has a slight slant when it sits atop the pumpkin. I'm using sandpaper, and I'm just going over it quickly to get some of the varnish off that's still kind of left on. I'm going to grab a spindle top that I cut a couple inches down. Again, I cut the spindle at a 15-degree angle so it sits slanted on top of the pumpkin. And I'm going to paint it with DIY Dark and Decrepit. After my stem dries, I'm just going to lightly distress it using my sanding block. Using Big Top by DIY, I'm going to give it a clear coat seal. I then decided to use my white wax and give it a coating. However, I didn't get it on camera. My apologies. While my stem dries, I'm going to grab 16 biscuits, and I had previously stained them with burnt umber acrylic paint, and then I painted over them with DIY cake batter. For more detailed instructions on how to build a sunflower using wooden biscuits, you can see my previous YouTube video on sunflowers. I can link it in the description. Using Titebond glue, I'm going to glue my biscuits down for the sunflower, and also a 1.5-inch circle for the centerpiece. Using the Titebond glue, I'm going to glue the stem to the pumpkin. Using some lace that I had on hand, I don't even know where I got it previously, I'm just going to create another messy bow using twine, and I'm going to tie it to the stem of the pumpkin. For my third pumpkin, I cut a 2x6, 7 inches long. I clipped the corners at a 45-degree angles, and I sanded the board. I then grabbed a 1-inch lath board, and I cut it the length of the board. And then I took a spindle, and I cut it, and I used a 15-degree angle, again, so I can have a tilted stem. I had purchased a set of mandala, I don't even know that's how it's correctly pronounced, stencils off of Amazon, and I'm going to cover the pumpkin with the stencil. Once I have my stencil placed, I'm going to grab some modeling paste, and using a plastic palette knife, I'm going to spread the modeling paste evenly over the stencil. I'm then going to lift the stencil straight up and off of the pumpkin, wiping down the edges where a little bit of the modeling paste is formed. Using a baby wipe, I'm going to clean off the stencil, and then using the same process, I'm going to apply the modeling paste to the 1-inch lath. I allowed the modeling paste to dry overnight just to make sure it was nice and hard. I then grabbed Apothecary by DIY and I gave both pieces of wood 2 coats of paint. While the paint dries, I use a baby wipe and I apply Dark and Decrepit to my stem. Using Titebond glue, I glue the 1-inch lath to the center of the pumpkin to give it a little depth and dimension. I use Crinoline by DIY and I give my stem a coat of paint. Using a stencil brush, I grab the white wax I previously mixed up and I give my pumpkin a complete coat. I wipe off the extra wax. It's nice the way the wax settles into the crevices, and it just adds a little depth and dimension to the piece. Again, using Titebond glue, I'm going to adhere my stem to my pumpkin. Here you can see the depth and the dimension that we obtained by using the white wax method over the modeling paste / stencil. And also with that modeling paste, once it's dry, it is really hard and it's not like it's gonna break easily and crumble. I'm gonna grab some lace burlap and some ribbon and make another messy bow and attach it to the stem. This bow was such a hot mess, it needed a pretty good haircut. Hey guys, I'm glad you're still here. Hopefully that means you like what you've seen and maybe we've sparked a little creativity. I would love to know which is your favorite pumpkins. If I had to choose, I'm probably going to go with the textured pumpkins. They've got great texture. You can mix up the sizes and the shapes. You can mix up the colors. But what's really great about these, even though they've got that shabby chic vibe, not a lot of people are making these. Not too many people are using that the modeling paste method. So you're not going to see a lot of these out on the market, so they are unique and stand out. You don't hear people going, oh, I can go home and make that, or so-and-so makes those and they're going to be cheaper, or we've all heard it when we're selling our own products. So these are a great seller just because of the uniqueness. If you have the customers that are more into that farmhouse feel, these are great because you've got the texture with the ribs of the pumpkin and with the distressing. So these are a good seller, but they're not as original. But if you want to know really the best sellers, again, we're going with the sunflowers. People love sunflowers. And again, you can shape or mix them up, change up your colors and your sizes. You're only limited to your own creativity and abilities. So please let me know what you like, what you want to see more of. And if you are feeling inspired, please like, comment, and hit that subscribe as you follow me along on my creative journey. Thank you.